right, let's dive into one of the most critical and honestly one of the trickiest parts of any project, resource management. We're going to break down the two major philosophies that drive how teams are built and run, the classic, traditional approach versus the more modern, agile way.
But before we get into the jargon, let's just ask the one question that every single project leader has to face. How do you build a team that actually works? You know, a team that has the right people, the right tools, and just the right vibe to knock it out of the park. That's the real challenge we're tackling today.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with what resource management even is. Then we'll put traditional and agile head-to-head, looking at how they plan, how they build their teams, and how they handle the daily grind. And we'll wrap it all up with a big question. Are you an architect or are you a gardener? Let's get into it.
First things first, Section 1. What are we even talking about when we say resource management? Well, it's pretty much the foundation of, well, everything. At its heart, project resource management is all about making sure you have the right people, the right gear, and the right materials on hand exactly when you need them. It's this constant juggling act, you know? You're trying to squeeze out every drop of efficiency, but you also have to keep your team happy and working together. And of course, every decision you make ties directly back to the project's scope, its schedule, and its budget. Okay, now we get to the juicy part, because there are two completely different ways to think about all this, and they come from two totally different mindsets. I want you to think about it like this. Are you an architect or are you a gardener? The traditional architect is all about prediction. They create a detailed blueprint, work from the top down, and focus on control. But the agile gardener, they're adaptive. They're collaborative. They focus on empowering the team and creating an environment where amazing things can just grow. This one metaphor is the key to understanding everything else.
So how does this actually look in the real world? Let's start at the very beginning, with planning and estimating. This is where you really see the architect's detailed blueprint go up against the gardener's simple seed packet.
And right away, we see this huge split. In the traditional world, the architect, that's your project manager, defines everything from the top down. They use these rigid charts to assign every single role. But in the agile world, the gardener trusts the team to figure this out themselves. They create flexible agreements, and that builds a sense of collective ownership from day one. A classic architect tool is something called a RACI matrix. It's basically a spreadsheet that spells out, for every task, who's responsible for doing it, who's ultimately accountable, who needs to be consulted, and who just needs to be kept informed. See, it's all about creating crystal clear roles through centralized control. And that control obsession extends to estimating, too. The architect tries to predict everything up front, calculating the exact hours needed for a massive to-do list called a work breakdown structure. The gardener, on the other hand, is way more adaptive. They just estimate what the team can handle in short bursts or sprints. The plan actually evolves as the project grows. So how does the gardener do that? Their secret weapon is velocity tracking. Velocity is just a simple way to measure how much stuff the team is consistently getting done in each sprint. It's not some rigid target they have to hit. It's just an observation. It helps the team get a feel for what they can realistically do next, letting them adapt their plans on the fly. Okay, so the plan, or at least the initial direction, is set. Now it's time to build the team. And again, you have to ask yourself, are we assembling a machine part by part, or are we cultivating a garden? In the traditional world, the architect is out there negotiating for people and assigning them to tasks, often shifting them from project to project like chess pieces. The agile way? It's all about cultivating stable, dedicated teams that stick together for the long haul, building up that trust and chemistry. They even write contracts that are more about successful collaboration than just ticking off a list of requirements. And you see that same exact split when it comes to helping the team grow. The architect schedules separate team-building days and sends people off to formal training classes. But the gardener? They weave learning and team building right into the daily work itself. Improvement isn't an event. It's something that happens continuously through people teaching each other and reflecting together. A fantastic example of this on-the-job learning is pair programming. It's as simple as it sounds. 2 developers, 1 computer. One person, the driver, is actually typing the code. The other, the navigator, is watching in real time, reviewing, catching mistakes, and suggesting ideas. It's not just about quality control. It's a powerful way to share knowledge and level up skills organically. So, the team is in place. The plan is in motion. How do things work day to day? Is the leader's job to be a traffic cop directing every move? Or is it to enable flow and get out of the way? This is where the philosophy really comes to life. In a traditional setup, the project manager is the center of the universe. They're the one tracking performance, giving out feedback, and stepping in to solve conflicts. But in an agile world, the team is empowered to do all of that themselves. They manage their own performance, they give each other constant feedback, and they work through disagreements together.
And this is all made possible by a really powerful idea called servant leadership. The leader's number one job isn't to command and control, it's to serve the team. They're a coach, a facilitator, a roadblock remover. Their whole goal is to create the perfect conditions for the garden to flourish, all on its own.
This completely changes how you control resources too. The architect relies on formal reports, spreadsheets, and audits. If someone's not busy, the PM finds something else for them to do. The gardener uses simple visual boards so everyone can see everything. If a problem pops up, the whole team jumps on it. Control doesn't come from formal oversight. It comes from transparency and collaboration.
And that moment when the whole team jumps on a problem, it has a pretty cool name, swarming. When one task gets stuck and becomes a bottleneck, the entire team focuses all their energy on that one thing to get it moving again. It's just a powerful real-time display of self-organization in action.
So we've walked through the whole process, planning, building, managing, and it all brings us back to that final question. Which playbook should you be using? When you boil it all down, the divide is fundamental. The traditional architect values prediction. For them, success means you followed the plan perfectly. The agile gardener, however, values adaptation. For them, success means you actually delivered something valuable to your customer, even if the path to get there changed. It's really a choice between control and empowerment. One approach is about building a rigid, predictable structure from a perfect blueprint. The other is about cultivating a living, dynamic system that can respond and grow. So, as you head back to your own work, the question is simple. Your next project is waiting. Will you be the architect or will you be the gardener?